So I went to see The Nun, which I thought was a remake of Sister Act, but it turns out it's a horror movie set in the Conjuring franchise. If you're one of the people that love jump scares, you can stop watching this video right now and go and see the movie. I'd give The Nun a 10 out of 10 would jump again. But to me, a lazy jump scare is the equivalent of a fart joke in a comedy movie, and boy is The Nun 136 minutes of pure flatulence. The only thing scary about this is the amount of jump scares they think is acceptable for a modern horror film. The film opens with a montage from the previous Conjuring movies, and they use loads of clips that I used in my parody video. I was honestly expecting Michael Rosen to pop up.
Honey? What's wrong?
Mom? Who's that?
Hello! The film is very bad, but it's not terrible enough to be funny, which is kind of a shame. It feels like they put effort into it, but they're too incompetent to turn that effort into anything worthwhile. But they get a gold star for trying. The acting was mostly good. For the longest time I actually thought the main woman of the film was meant to be a younger version of Vera Farmiga's character from the other Conjuring films, but apparently not. It turns out the two actors are sisters in real life and look incredibly alike, which begs the question, why would you cast someone who looks like a younger version of the face of your franchise? That's like casting a Mark Hamill lookalike for a Star Wars prequel and have him not be the Luke Skywalker character. The confusion it gave me seems to be accidental. All the way through I was expecting them to pull some kind of twist.
What a twist!
There was a huge lack of mythology of any kind, either to do with the location or the demon, which is a massive missed opportunity because the setting was ripe for it. The script was really bad, with some exposition early on that was so clunky it gave me a headache.
It's your skull, squeezing your brains. It's a headache.
In fact, there was no actual story to speak of. I don't think I've ever seen a film so barren when it comes to the storyline. It's just a string of jump scares with no real thought gone into it at all. And what was with all that fog? You couldn't even see the ground at times. I think the guy responsible for the smoke machine must have switched it on and fell asleep. He must have been as bored as I was. And the music was completely overblown, not just the musical stings for the jump scares. You'd have a nun just walking down a corridor and the orchestra explodes in this apocalyptic death march. And there's nothing inherently scary about a nun. The nun from Blues Brothers was scarier than this.
Get out! And don't come back until you've redeemed yourselves.
The film seems to think it's really scary when someone walks past the camera. At one point the characters are on a horse and carriage going towards the haunted castle thing, and the horse stops dead in its tracks. The guide then tells the other characters that the horse is too scared to go any further and they need to proceed on foot. What is it with animals in horror movies being able to detect the supernatural? That cliche is getting worn out. And they say the horse is too scared to go on, but as soon as it stops, it starts eating grass. If the animal is scared, it wouldn't immediately start eating. The horse isn't acting scared at all. It's the worst horse acting I've ever seen. 1 out of 10. Would not horse again. The film is just a boring series of jump scares, which wouldn't be so bad. Actually, it would be so bad. But they repeat the same type of jump scares over and over again. The characters would be walking through a hallway or the woods, and then the nun would appear. It's just standing there. I have no idea why. Then it cuts to a reaction of the character looking scared, and when it cuts back, the nun has vanished. Where did it go? What did the character see? Did the nun turn invisible like the Predator, or did it run off and hide behind a tree? After the nun has disappeared, the camera slowly pans around to the character's face, and the nun is behind them. Cue jump scare. At one point the scary nun was walking through a corridor, and as she passed the candles they would go out, leaving everything behind her in darkness. They then do this again later in the film. As she walks through the corridor, everything behind her turns to complete darkness. But there's no candles this time, so where is the light coming from in the first place?
Hey, want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
I have no idea what the demon thing wanted. It just repeatedly dicks around for no reason. It would be right on top of people, strangling them to death, and then it would vanish. And let me tell you, that's the best way to create tension in a scene. Whenever the characters are in danger, just have the bad guy run away for no reason. Why have actual stakes and consequences and figure out a creative way for the characters to get out of the situation, when you can just have the ghost evaporate into thin air? It really gets me worried for the safety of the protagonists. They could have spent time developing the characters so the audience actually cares about them, but why bother wasting time on that when we could have more jump scares? At one point a man is walking through a graveyard because, of course, it is a cheap horror movie, and all the graves are filled in. The nun pops up and pushes him, and he falls back into a suddenly open grave. The coffin slams shut on top of him, and the grave is instantly filled with dirt again, somehow. Then a woman digs him out. She asks how it's possible for him to fall into a grave when they were all covered, but we get no answer. The ghost can just change reality at will, I guess. It must have the Infinity Gauntlet or something. If the nun is so powerful, why does it have such a hard time killing the characters? That is, if it's trying to kill them at all. While the man is buried in the grave, the nun attacks him, but as soon as the woman's shovel pierces the coffin, the nun vanishes for some reason. Why not just attack them both? Or, if the nun has the power to instantly dig up and fill in the grave, why not wait until the woman has almost dug up the grave and instantly fill it in again? The woman would be too exhausted to save the man if you keep doing that.
Hey everyone. I don't feel so good.
When both of the characters manage to get out of the grave, they look into the coffin and see some books, to which the man says, "They might be useful." I'm sorry, but how on earth did you make that leap in logic? What gave you the idea that these random books found in a coffin would help you with your current demon problem? The dead guy probably got buried with his books, which is weird, but whatever. But it turns out the books are helpful, so why did the nun lead them to these books in the first place? Either the books are coincidentally there and conveniently turn out to be useful, or the nun purposefully showed the man where books on how to kill demons were, so the nun could lose? What is going on in this film? Later on in the movie, the characters all split up without talking about it. I have no idea if this was the plan. The three characters are looking for something as they cautiously walk down a hallway. The person at the back of the group peels off into a room while the others continue down the hallway. They don't look back to see him go into the room, and the person leaving the group doesn't say anything, so do they even know he's gone? A moment later, the person at the back of the two remaining people then goes off into a separate room. The remaining guy does seem scared when he finds himself alone being attacked by a demon, but how much of that is because he is alone and how much of that is because the nun looks like a Marilyn Manson tribute act, I don't know. What I'm trying to say is I can't tell if these characters were acting stupid or if the plan was always to split up and it wasn't communicated to the audience. Either way is bad, but I like to be precise with my critiques. The most innovative jump scare they had is when there's a nun standing in front of the character, so you're expecting it to leap forward, but another nun attacks from the side, like a velociraptor.
And he just stares right back. And that's when the attack comes, not from the front, but from the side.
I would have added a spoiler warning when talking about this film, but like I said, there's no story to spoil. This film is a complete waste of time and not worth your money. The sets were nice but underutilised, and the whole movie is shot to a good enough standard. I was hoping the movie would be bad enough to be funny, but it's not even that. It's just boring.
It's so scary, like really very scary.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.